A jagged rift of cosmic glass shattered across the Null Realm. Son Goku plummeted backward into absolute nothingness. Blood streamed from his torn gi into the breathless void. Far above him, the Grand Priest lowered a glowing, merciless finger. The multiverse was sealing its borders against the Saiyan forever. But at the bottom of the endless dark, two colossal, golden reptilian eyes snapped open. A jagged rift of cosmic glass shattered across the Null Realm. Son Goku plummeted backward into the endless dark. Absolute nothingness swallowed his broken body. A thick trail of blood streamed from his torn orange gi. The crimson droplets instantly froze in the breathless void. He stared upward at the fading sliver of light. The Grand Priest stood at the very edge of shattered reality. The Angelic being lowered a glowing index finger. A flash of white divine energy ignited. The dimensional tear sealed shut with a deafening crack. The multiverse locked its borders against the Saiyan forever. The final trace of heavenly light vanished entirely. Goku plunged into a realm of absolute darkness. The sheer silence immediately deafened his ears. He opened his bruised mouth. He tried to draw a desperate breath. His lungs pulled in a bitter, empty vacuum. He choked on the freezing nothingness. His hands clawed at his own throat. He spiraled much deeper into the pitch-black abyss. There were no shining stars in this forgotten space. This was the primordial graveyard of all creation. Standard gravity did not exist in this spatial layer. Yet a crushing physical pressure slammed into his chest. It felt exactly like a collapsing star resting on his ribs. His dense skeletal structure groaned under the sheer weight. Hairline fractures spider-webbed across his sternum. He let out a silent, agonizing scream of pure pain. His powerful muscles seized up entirely. The external temporal pressure multiplied rapidly. His battered body curled instinctively into a fetal position. He desperately needed to generate his own internal gravity. He dug deep into his spiritual core. He reached blindly for his mortal reserves of ki. A faint yellow spark ignited around his clenched right fist. The surrounding void reacted instantly to the light. The endless dark snuffed the golden spark out. The Super Saiyan energy evaporated into the cosmic vacuum. He gritted his teeth against the mounting agony. Fresh, hot blood seeped past his cracked lips. He tapped into the much deeper realm of the gods. A blazing blue aura flared to bright life. It aggressively pushed back the crushing curtain of darkness. The physical relief lasted a mere fraction of a second. The abyss retaliated fiercely against the divine signature. Invisible, heavy jaws clamped down on the blue energy. The god key shattered exactly like fragile glass. The glowing blue shards dissolved back into the emptiness. Cold panic flared deep inside his burning chest. He forced his frantic mind to achieve complete calm. He needed absolute tranquility to survive this descent. He squeezed his eyes shut. He visualized the still, silver waters of his inner mind. A pristine silver glow manifested around his bruised skin. His dark hair flickered with streaks of pure white light. He opened his eyes wide. The silver irises pierced the absolute, suffocating dark. The abyss did not tolerate angelic tranquility. A massive wave of sheer, ancient dread struck his psyche. The still waters of his mind boiled over instantly. The silver aura flickered with extreme erratic violence. The pure light twisted into grotesque, jagged shapes. The void actively corrupted the flawless angelic technique. A searing migraine pierced directly through his skull. He clutched his throbbing temples with both hands. The silver light died completely. His hair reverted immediately to its base black form. Ultra Instinct offered zero salvation in this deep void. Time lost its fundamental meaning during the endless fall. Seconds stretched into excruciating, agonizing hours. His skin turned ice-cold to the touch. Pale frost formed slowly on his dark eyelashes. His erratic heartbeat slowed down to a mere crawl. He drifted on the very edge of mortal consciousness. His vision blurred heavily at the outer edges. He surrendered entirely to the endless descent. His body tumbled like a discarded, broken ragdoll. Microscopic tears ripped through his dense muscle fibers. His Saiyan DNA unraveled in the pure cosmic vacuum. A sudden, violent jolt snapped his spine perfectly straight. His eyes shot open wide. He gasped for a breath he still could not take. The void was no longer an empty, hungry vacuum. The darkness felt incredibly thick and heavy. A faint, physical hum vibrated through his shattered bones. It sounded exactly like a massive, ancient heartbeat. His rapid downward momentum ceased entirely. His heavy boots touched a solid, flat conceptual surface. Ripples of kinetic energy spread outward from his boots. Goku fell forward onto his hands and knees. He dragged his fingers across the invisible ground. The solid surface felt like cold, polished obsidian. He slowly lifted his heavy, bleeding head. A colossal, terrifying structure loomed in the dark. It stretched infinitely upward into the unseen cosmic ceiling. It was a monumental, ancient cage. Massive pillars of crystallized chronos formed the vertical bars. The temporal energy shifted in sick hues of emerald and gold. Dead universes floated within the colossal glowing chains. The chains wrapped tightly around a central, living mass. The central living mass was incomprehensibly huge. Goku strained his bruised neck backward. He saw a single, razor-sharp reptilian claw. The claw alone dwarfed a supermassive black hole. He saw ancient, interlocking metallic scales. Each individual scale glowed with the raw birth of a cosmos. The temporal chains bit deep into its ancient, scaled flesh. Thick green blood oozed slowly from the massive glowing wounds. Goku pushed himself up off the floor. His legs trembled violently under the sheer pressure. This was not just a giant cosmic beast. This was a primordial, universe-birthing god. It was infinitely older than the Omni-King. It was the literal foundation of all existing things. The original ancient dragon god remained chained here. The giant, slumbering entity shifted its massive weight. The crystallized chains groaned under the immense temporal strain. A shockwave blasted outward from the slight movement. The wave struck Goku squarely in the chest. He flew backward through the dense, heavy space. He skidded hard across the invisible obsidian floor. He dug his fingers deep into the conceptual surface. The thick darkness directly in front of him parted. Two colossal, vertical slits appeared in the void. Blinding golden light flooded the lower abyss. Two massive reptilian eyes stared down at the Saiyan. The irises burned with rings of absolute, terrifying creation. The sheer weight of the gaze paralyzed Goku entirely. He could not force his eyes to blink. The ancient dragon god was fully awake. The ancient entity looked down at the broken mortal vessel. A voice bypassed Goku's physical ears entirely. The ancient voice echoed directly inside his naked soul. The psychic voice shattered Goku's internal thoughts. It felt like a million supernovas detonating inside his skull. He fell forward onto his bleeding knees. He clutched his head with both bruised hands. The colossal golden eyes of Zalama flared brightly. A terrifying torrent of raw information flooded the Saiyan's mind. Goku did not hear any spoken words. He experienced a vivid, waking nightmare of pure history. He saw the very first dawn of existence. The Null Realm was not always an empty void. It was once a vibrant, sprawling canvas of emerald light. Zalama swam gracefully through the ancient cosmic waters. The dragon god breathed pure life into the formless dark. Entire galaxies bloomed from his massive glowing maw. The multiverse was a single, perfect sphere of absolute harmony. Then the tiny, childish shadows arrived. Two identical silhouettes stepped out of the cosmic fog. The Omni-Kings brought a terrifying, unnatural silence with them. The Grand Priest hovered silently behind their dual thrones. They did not create the infinite realms. They merely claimed the finished masterpiece. Zalama roared in defiant, ancient fury. The Grand Priest raised a single, pale hand. Billions of angelic tethers shot out from his fingertips. The temporal chains pierced the dragon god's golden scales. The Omni-Kings giggled with horrifying innocence. They slammed their small hands down on the fabric of reality. They fractured the perfect sphere into 18 separate universes. They built their celestial palace directly on top of Zalama's prison. They violently stole the title of Ultimate Creators. The psychic vision severed its connection abruptly. Goku gasped desperately for air. He stared at the chained beast in absolute horror. The entire hierarchy of the gods was a massive, bloody lie. Zeno was nothing but a cosmic parasite. The Grand Priest was the ultimate, ruthless warden. A deep, righteous fury ignited within Goku's chest. His fists clenched tightly against the invisible obsidian floor. He looked directly into the massive, slitted golden pupils. The dragon god recognized the pure rebellion burning in the mortal. A single, colossal scale peeled back from Zalama's snout. A solitary drop of pure green creation energy formed. It hovered directly over the chained god. The glowing drop fell slowly through the dense abyss. It struck Goku squarely in the center of his chest. The impact did not produce a physical shockwave. The droplet phased perfectly through his torn orange gi. It sank seamlessly into his beating heart. The endless cosmic vacuum shattered into a million pieces. A column of blistering emerald fire erupted around the Saiyan. The sheer heat vaporized the surrounding frost instantly. The dark void retreated from the blinding light. Goku stood up straight within the roaring pillar of flame. His broken bones snapped violently back into perfect alignment. His deep physical wounds closed in a matter of milliseconds. The creation ki surged furiously through his mortal veins. It hijacked his entire circulatory system. The energy felt completely different from standard God Kai. It was not destructive or tranquil. It was pure, unadulterated cosmic birth. His base ki mutated at a terrifying speed. His raven hair spiked rapidly upward. It took on a brilliant, shimmering emerald hue. His silver aura was replaced by a dense, golden-green mantle. Sparks of literal creation snapped around his broad shoulders. Tiny, temporary planets formed and died within his blazing aura. He raised his right hand to his face. He curled his thick fingers into a tight fist. He threw a single, experimental punch into the empty air. The physical space directly in front of him tore open. A jagged dimensional rift hissed with raw stellar energy. He did not even use a fraction of his true power. This state completely dwarfed Mastered Ultra Instinct. It made the god of destruction energy look like a mere candle. He possessed the literal building blocks of the multiverse. He felt entirely invincible. He let out a loud, triumphant shout. A sharp, agonizing tear erupted in his right bicep. The triumphant shout died immediately in his throat. He looked down in sudden, rising panic. A long, jagged fissure split the skin of his right arm. Pure emerald light bled aggressively from the deep wound. The pain was completely blinding. He dropped heavily to one knee. He grabbed his injured arm tightly. The false victory crumbled into sudden horror. A mortal vessel was fundamentally incapable of housing pure creation. The dragon god's energy was too dense for standard Saiyan biology. His cellular structure began to reject the divine upgrade. His DNA screamed under the impossible cosmic load. Another fissure ripped open across his left thigh. Bright green fire jetted outward from his torn flesh. He was literally melting from the inside out. The immense power was systematically eating his mortal body. He needed to vent the excess energy immediately. He threw both hands forward. He fired a massive, emerald blast into the darkness. The giant beam illuminated the endless depths of the abyss. The severe recoil shattered the bones in both of his wrists. The fractured bones instantly healed themselves with creation ki. The healed bones were immediately fractured again by the internal pressure. An endless, torturous cycle of rapid destruction and rebirth commenced. His blood boiled violently in his veins. He screamed in pure, unadulterated agony. The sound echoed forever across the silent void. The immense power was a lethal ticking clock. He had exactly 5 minutes before his body vaporized completely. The emerald aura spiked erratically. His vision blurred with thick, red static. He tried to force the energy back down into his core. The creation ki flatly refused to obey a mortal command. It thrashed wildly like a trapped, feral beast. His skin began to peel away in small, glowing flakes. He slammed his forehead hard against the invisible floor. He needed a target to focus this lethal power. He needed to fight to survive. The cosmic abyss remained completely empty. The dragon god simply watched with unblinking, emotionless eyes. The ticking clock accelerated mercilessly. His internal organs began to fail. His heart palpitated erratically. He was going to die right here in the dark. Goku clenched his jaw tightly. He refused to accept this pathetic end. He pushed his failing body upward. His legs shook violently under the immense internal strain. The emerald aura burned hotter. The ambient temperature of the void spiked rapidly. Tiny pockets of reality warped and snapped around his boots. He focused all his fading willpower on a single point. He compressed the chaotic energy tightly against his heart. The immense pressure threatened to burst his chest wide open. He gritted his teeth hard. Blood sprayed from his lips. He stabilized the volatile aura for a brief, agonizing second. He stood completely still. He breathed in shallow, jagged gasps. The rapid cellular decay slowed to a painful crawl. He bought himself a tiny fraction of time. The dense silence of the void was suddenly broken. A high-pitched, ringing sound pierced the darkness. Goku snapped his head upward. The dimensional ceiling far above him began to ripple. A distinct, pure white light bled into the black abyss. The heavenly realm had noticed the massive energy spike. The usurpers were watching the Null Realm. The signature of the ancient creator had triggered a celestial alarm. The pure white light intensified rapidly. Goku felt a familiar, chilling sensation wash over his burning skin. It was the distinct signature of ancient angelic beings. The Grand Priest was making his immediate move. The true rulers of the multiverse were descending into the graveyard. Goku wiped the fresh blood from his chin. He tightened his grip on his fractured wrists. He glared up at the blinding white light. He was fundamentally broken. His body was tearing itself apart. Yet he smiled a cold, defiant smile. The executioners were coming. He welcomed the fight. The cosmic ceiling shattered like brittle ice. 4 columns of pure white light slammed into the obsidian floor. The brilliant pillars illuminated the endless dark. Goku shielded his bruised eyes against the blinding glare. The light faded slowly to reveal 4 towering figures. These were not the familiar guides of the current multiverse. They wore heavy, archaic robes of deep crimson and silver. Their halos were not smooth rings of tranquil light. Their halos were jagged crowns of spinning chronos. Their pale faces were entirely devoid of emotion. They lacked any trace of angelic benevolence. They were the original, ruthless executioners of the Grand Priest. The void grew impossibly cold around their physical forms. Goku dropped into a low, defensive martial arts stance. His torn muscles screamed in agonizing protest. The emerald fire flared violently around his heavy boots. He launched himself directly at the lead angel. He crossed the massive cosmic distance in a literal microsecond. He pulled his right arm back for a devastating physical strike. The angel did not even flinch. The ancient being simply rotated his silver staff a fraction of an inch. A solid wall of localized gravity manifested instantly. Goku slammed headfirst into the invisible barrier. The sheer kinetic impact shattered his nose completely. Thick blood sprayed across the invisible conceptual wall. He bounced violently backward off the barrier. He crashed heavily onto the hard obsidian floor. The second angel raised a pale, glowing hand. Space itself warped aggressively around Goku's torso. Invisible, crushing hands clamped down on his chest. He gasped for air as his ribs compressed inwards. The horrific sound of snapping bone echoed loudly across the void. 3 of his ribs splintered directly into his lungs. He coughed up a thick mouthful of crimson blood. The internal ticking clock accelerated mercilessly inside his veins. The volatile creation Kai surged violently in desperate response. The uncontrolled energy ripped a new fissure across his left shoulder. Scorching green fire poured out of his torn flesh. His mortal body was failing him at the worst possible moment. He forced his broken frame up onto one knee. He fired a point-blank emerald energy wave at the third angel. The massive beam tore through the dark void with devastating speed. The third angel merely tapped the bottom of his staff on the ground. The fundamental laws of physics inverted instantly. The massive energy beam abruptly reversed its forward trajectory. The beam slammed directly back into Goku's exposed chest. The resulting explosion engulfed him entirely. The violent blast threw him backward across the obsidian expanse. He rolled endlessly across the smooth, dark floor. He came to a painful halt at the very edge of the angelic light. His orange gi was completely shredded into bloody rags. His exposed skin was heavily scorched by his own attack. The fourth angel glided silently forward through the darkness. The ancient being hovered directly over the broken Saiyan. Goku tried to push himself up with trembling, fractured arms. The angel gently placed a booted foot squarely on Goku's spine. The physical weight of an entire galaxy pressed down on him. His spine curved unnaturally under the immense gravitational pressure. His arms gave out completely. His battered face smashed flat against the cold conceptual floor. He could not move a single voluntary muscle. Absolute physical despair settled heavily into his racing mind. He was utterly powerless against this ancient cosmic magic. They did not fight with traditional martial arts. They fought by rewriting the fabric of reality itself. He could not punch a warped law of physics. He could not dodge the absolute deletion of spatial dimensions. The lead angel walked slowly toward the pinned mortal. The executioner looked down with absolute, chilling apathy. The ancient being raised his staff high above his pale head. The silver orb at the top began to glow with terrifying intensity. This was not the standard destruction magic used by gods of destruction. This was absolute, irreversible conceptual erasure. It would permanently delete his soul from the grand timeline. It would erase his past, present, and future simultaneously. The suffocating pressure of impending non-existence washed over Goku. The emerald fire around his broken body flickered very weakly. The creation key was severely suppressed by the dense angelic magic. The light in Goku's silver eyes began to dim rapidly. His breathing grew incredibly shallow and ragged. The intense pain in his fractured body slowly faded away. A cold, absolute numbness took its immediate place. He stared blankly at the dark obsidian floor directly beneath his face. The images of his distant family flashed briefly in his fading mind. He had failed to protect the hidden truth of the cosmos. He had failed to survive the crushing depths of the void. The colossal golden eyes of the dragon god watched silently from the dark. Zalama did not offer any further assistance to the dying mortal. The original creator simply observed the brutal, one-sided execution. The lead angel lowered the glowing staff toward Goku's shattered skull. The blinding white light of absolute erasure engulfed Goku's entire vision. The pure silence of eternal, dreamless death awaited him. He closed his heavy eyes slowly. He accepted the bitter, humiliating end of his long journey. His physical form began to dissolve instantly into white ash. The tips of his fingers vanished entirely from existence. The absolute lowest point of his entire existence arrived. The grand universe would forget the name Son Goku forever. The angelic staff descended another crucial inch. The white erasure magic began to consume his dense boots. The fabric of his gi simply ceased to be. The Grand Priest's will was absolute in this dark realm. A strange, terrifying coldness penetrated Goku's internal core. It was the literal feeling of his soul being unwritten. The memory of his first martial arts tournament started to delete itself. The memory of his first Super Saiyan transformation faded into nothingness. He was being systematically unmade from the inside out. The fourth angel applied even more pressure to his broken back. Goku felt his vertebrae shift dangerously close to snapping entirely. The Emerald Creation Key retreated deep into his failing heart. It was completely cornered by the overwhelming white light. The executioners stood in perfect, terrifying silence around him. They did not gloat over their absolute victory. They treated his death as a mere mundane chore. Goku let out a final, pathetic exhale of bloody breath. The erasure magic reached his bloody knees. His lower legs turned into glowing, white conceptual dust. The dust floated upwards into the silent cosmic vacuum. The lead angel prepared to strike the final, fatal blow. Total darkness threatened to consume Goku's fading consciousness permanently. The crushing weight of the angel's foot pinned his ribs flat. The obsidian floor remained perfectly rigid underneath him. Blood pooled slowly around his cracked jaw. He tasted raw iron and bitter defeat. The white light of the staff hummed with a sickening frequency. The sound grated violently against his eardrums. Every single nerve ending in his body screamed in pure terror. He tried to summon a final spark of Super Saiyan energy. His spiritual core remained completely dead. The angelic suppression field neutralized all mortal Kai. He was nothing but a fragile shell of broken meat. The void seemed to shrink tightly around his dissolving body. The cosmic chains of the dragon god rattled loudly in the distance. The sound mocked his complete inability to change fate. He had touched the power of absolute creation. He was dying like a helpless insect anyway. The first layer of his epidermis evaporated into the light. His muscles lay completely exposed to the freezing vacuum. The pain returned with a sudden, sharp vengeance. He gnashed his bloody teeth together. A guttural groan escaped his ruined throat. He suffocated slowly in the blinding divine light. The Grand Priest had ordered a flawless, immediate cleanup. They executed the command with terrifying, robotic efficiency. The erasure dust drifted lazily past Goku's blurry vision. He watched his own legs disappear into absolute nothingness. The creeping dread finally overpowered his warrior spirit. A single tear of pure frustration rolled down his dirty cheek. The tear instantly crystallized in the cold cosmic vacuum. It shattered quietly against the hard conceptual floor. The absolute end was finally here. The white light completely engulfed his broken torso. The final strike descended directly toward his exposed neck. The glowing staff touched his exposed neck. A blinding spike of pure agony severed his nervous system. Goku stared blindly into the absolute white void. He felt the ancient emerald key shivering inside his failing heart. He had tried to cage a massive universe within a fragile mortal shell. He had tried to calm the violent storm with forced angelic tranquility. Saiyans were fundamentally never meant to be tranquil beings. They were born directly from wild, unyielding cosmic chaos. They evolved strictly through savage combat and sheer bloody adaptation. Goku stopped resisting the violent internal pressure entirely. He shattered his own spiritual barriers instantly. He surrendered his mind completely to the primal, roaring beast within. The dormant creation key violently flooded his empty veins. It collided aggressively with his unraveling Saiyan DNA. A terrifying cosmic alchemy occurred in a literal microsecond. His evaporating blood turned a dense, glowing emerald. The erasure magic abruptly stalled at his injured neck. The white light hissed violently against his suddenly mutating flesh. Goku opened his eyes. His serene silver irises were completely gone. Solid gold reptilian slits replaced his mortal pupils. A monstrous, guttural roar ripped from his bloody throat. The sound did not resemble a mortal man at all. It sounded exactly like a newborn, raging cosmos. The sonic shockwave shattered the angel's suppression field instantly. The heavy gravitational pressure evaporated into thin air. The white ash of his deleted legs suddenly reversed its downward trajectory. The conceptual dust rapidly spun backward into solid muscle. He literally recreated his own erased biology from scratch. Dense, dark green fur erupted across his broad chest. His golden emerald aura exploded outward with catastrophic force. The sudden blast threw the fourth angel backward into the dark. The lead angel thrust the glowing staff down with lethal intent. Goku raised his newly formed left hand. He caught the deadly silver orb perfectly in his bare palm. The absolute erasure magic washed harmlessly over his dark green skin. The angel stared in sudden, uncharacteristic shock. Goku squeezed his thick fingers tightly together. The indestructible angelic staff shattered into a million silver fragments. He pushed himself slowly off the obsidian floor. His new physical form towered heavily over the ancient executioners. The emerald fire burned violently around his thick, muscular frame. He possessed the wild, untamed stance of a great ape. He commanded the absolute creation authority of the dragon god. The second angel raised both hands to warp space again. Goku did not bother to dodge the incoming attack. He simply took a single, heavy step forward. The obsidian floor cracked aggressively beneath his heavy boot. He glared directly at the casting angel. He willed the spatial attack to simply not exist. The invisible crushing hands vanished instantly from reality. The angel lowered his arms in sheer confusion. Goku closed the massive distance in 0 time. He did not throw a standard martial arts punch. He grabbed the angel entirely by the pale throat. He slammed the ancient being face first into the conceptual floor. The localized gravity barrier shattered completely upon direct impact. The angel's crimson halo spun wildly out of control. Goku pumped pure creation ki directly into the angel's chest. The ancient immortal body could not handle raw birth energy. The angel's chest expanded violently outward. The executioner exploded into a shower of harmless white light. The third angel tapped his staff frantically on the floor. He attempted to invert local physics again. Goku snapped his golden reptilian eyes toward the desperate threat. He extended 2 fingers directly toward the panicked angel. A microscopic emerald galaxy formed at his fingertips. He flicked the miniature cosmos rapidly forward. The tiny galaxy bypassed the inverted physics entirely. It embedded itself deeply inside the angel's pale forehead. The miniature universe expanded instantly to its full size. The angel's head vanished completely into the new spatial rift. The headless body collapsed heavily onto the dark floor. The fourth angel recovered quickly from the initial shockwave. He lunged viciously at Goku from the blind side. Goku did not even turn his massive head. A thick, prehensile green tail whipped out from his lower spine. The heavy tail struck the angel squarely in the chest. The sheer kinetic force folded the ancient being perfectly in half. The angel vomited a thick stream of pure white divine blood. Goku turned slowly to face the lead angel. The leader stood completely unarmed in the endless dark. His blank, apathetic expression finally broke apart. A sudden flicker of genuine primal fear crossed his pale face. Goku walked slowly toward the terrified executioner. Every single footstep warped the surrounding dimension heavily. The void trembled violently under his immense, oppressive weight. He reached out with a massive, clawed hand. He grabbed the angel's crimson robes tightly. He lifted the struggling immortal easily off the ground. The angel kicked wildly at Goku's solid chest. The frantic blows felt like pathetic raindrops against a steel mountain. Goku pulled the angel incredibly close to his face. He bared his sharp, terrifying fangs. He whispered a single, guttural command into the angel's ear. He forbade the act of erasure completely. He flooded the angel's physical form with chaotic creation energy. The angel screamed a horrifying, pathetic mortal scream. The ancient being transformed rapidly into a lifeless stone statue. Goku dropped the heavy statue onto the obsidian floor. It shattered instantly into 1,000 gray pebbles. The execution squad was entirely wiped out. The blinding white light vanished entirely from the Null Realm. The dark void returned to its absolute, suffocating silence. Goku stood alone among the broken remains of the false gods. His wild green fur bristled with untamed cosmic lightning. He looked up toward the invisible ceiling of the abyss. The heavenly realm was located directly above him. The ancient usurpers were waiting in their comfortable celestial palace. He raised his right fist high above his head. He gathered the chaotic, emerald fire into a dense, swirling sphere. He punched straight upward into the empty void. The massive concussive force tore reality completely open. A massive, glowing rift appeared in the dark cosmic sky. The blinding light of Zeno's palace spilled steadily downward. Goku bent his powerful legs deeply. He launched himself violently through the open cosmic wound. The ascent through the dimensional rift tore aggressively at his physical form. He ignored the violent friction burning his thick fur. He focused solely on the distant, bright celestial ceiling. His golden slitted eyes tracked the strange temporal energy waves. He smashed through 3 distinct spatial barriers simultaneously. The void tried desperately to pull his heavy body back down. He roared loudly against the oppressive gravitational anchor. His dense aura expanded heavily into the surrounding rift. The emerald fire melted the jagged edges of the cosmic portal. He rocketed upward with terrifying, completely impossible velocity. The golden chains of the dragon god rattled far below him. Zalama watched the ascending mortal with quiet, ancient approval. Goku left the primordial graveyard completely behind him. He prepared to crash the ultimate throne room of existence. The Grand Priest would finally answer for his ancient, bloody sins. The Omni-Kings would face the true, untamed wrath of creation. The cosmic portal snapped shut behind Goku with a deafening crack. He stood firmly in the absolute center of the celestial domain. The celestial floor of the Omni-King's palace exploded violently upward. Shattered pieces of divine marble rained heavily across the throne room. A blinding pillar of emerald fire pierced the pristine royal ceiling. Goku stepped slowly out of the smoking, ruined crater. His massive, fur-covered frame crackled with untamed creation lightning. He dragged his thick, prehensile tail across the polished golden floor. The pure white light of the palace clashed heavily with his green aura. He flexed his massive, clawed hands in the tense, silent atmosphere. The heavy muscles in his broad back shifted under his dense fur. The ambient temperature of the royal chamber skyrocketed instantly. The indestructible pillars of the celestial palace cracked loudly. Deep fissures spiderwebbed rapidly across the perfect white walls. Space itself distorted violently around his broad, muscular shoulders. The two Zenos floated completely frozen above their dual thrones. Their childish smiles melted immediately into masks of pure terror. They experienced the alien sensation of absolute dread for the first time. They clutched each other tightly in desperate, frantic panic. The Grand Priest stood directly between the Saiyan and the thrones. The angelic warden dropped his tranquil, benevolent smile completely. His pale face contorted into a mask of pure, ancient malice. His purple eyes burned with raw, suppressed cosmic fury. He raised both of his hands slowly into the tense, heavy air. A terrifying, dark purple aura erupted around his slender frame. He abandoned the strict rules of angelic neutrality entirely. He summoned a massive halo of jagged chronos above his head. The entire multiverse began to shake violently under his shifting power. Goku did not stop his slow, menacing advance. His golden slitted eyes locked entirely on the Grand Priest. Every single heavy footstep left a burning green footprint on the floor. He did not come here to beg for divine forgiveness. He came to shatter the grand cosmic lie entirely. He clenched his large, clawed right hand into a tight fist. The emerald fire flared massively around his spiked green hair. He demanded the absolute truth from the terrified usurpers. His guttural voice vibrated aggressively through the fractured throne room. The Grand Priest scoffed loudly at the mortal's sheer audacity. The Warden declared the immediate erasure of the entire known multiverse. He prepared to wipe the cosmic slate completely clean. He charged a colossal sphere of dark erasure magic between his palms. The sheer gravity of the dark sphere collapsed the surrounding palace walls. Goku dug his heavy boots violently deep into the ruined floor. He pulled his right arm back for a devastating, reality-breaking strike. He prepared to meet the absolute erasure with raw cosmic birth. The air between them evaporated instantly into a total vacuum. The Grand Priest thrust his hands violently forward. The colossal sphere of dark destruction shot directly toward the Saiyan. Goku punched the empty air with terrifying, earth-shattering force. A massive beam of concentrated emerald fire erupted from his fist. The two impossible energies collided squarely in the center of the room. The resulting shockwave completely vaporized the palace roof. The endless starry expanse of the cosmos lay fully exposed above them. The physical fabric of the timeline began to tear violently apart. Jagged red rifts appeared randomly across the ruined throne room. The raw friction between the two attacks generated intense heat. The pristine floorboards melted directly into glowing, golden liquid. Goku stepped forward into the massive pool of molten metal. His heavy boots did not burn in the intense, glowing heat. He pushed his massive weight entirely into the raging energy struggle. The muscles in his right arm bulged to an impossible, terrifying size. The emerald beam expanded massively in sheer destructive width. The dark erasure magic pushed aggressively against the green creation key. Goku bared his sharp, primal fangs in a vicious snarl. He forced more wild cosmic energy from his beating heart into the beam. The emerald fire slowly consumed the Grand Priest's dark magic. The Warden's pale hands trembled violently under the mounting pressure. He realized the mortal vessel was completely overriding his ancient authority. He gritted his teeth against the blinding green light. Suddenly, the shadows behind Zeno's dual thrones expanded violently. The pure, inky darkness bled aggressively outward across the golden floor. The temperature of the fractured room plummeted to absolute zero. The Omni-Kings let out a synchronized, piercing shriek of pure horror. The Grand Priest froze completely in sheer, unexpected panic. His dark purple erasure sphere dissolved instantly into harmless sparks. Goku immediately canceled his own massive energy wave. He narrowed his glowing reptilian eyes at the creeping, thick darkness. A colossal, skeletal hand reached slowly out of the expanding shadows. The elongated bone digits were pitch black and dripping with dark matter. The massive hand grabbed the top of the closest Zeno throne tightly. The indestructible celestial metal decayed instantly into rusty dust. The Zeno sitting on the throne vanished completely into thin air. The remaining Omni-King scrambled desperately backward off his floating seat. He crawled pathetically across the frozen, ruined floor. He sought desperate refuge behind the kneeling Grand Priest. The Warden did not offer the tiny king any physical protection. A new, terrifying entity stepped slowly out of the creeping shadows. The towering creature possessed zero distinct facial features whatsoever. A swirling vortex of dead galaxies occupied the space of its face. It wore a tattered, ancient robe woven from billions of dying stars. It radiated a suffocating aura of total, irreversible cosmic consumption. This was fundamentally not the chained dragon god from the deep void. This was the original cosmic parasite that spawned the Zeno family entirely. The Grand Priest fell immediately to his trembling knees. He bowed his head deeply toward the ancient, faceless horror. The entity completely ignored the kneeling, terrified Angelic Warden. The very concept of time slowed down to a painful, agonizing crawl. Goku felt a massive, unseen weight crash down on his broad shoulders. His emerald aura fought aggressively against the encroaching, heavy darkness. The entity turned its swirling vortex visage slowly toward the towering Saiyan. The primal beast inside Goku's soul roared loudly in immediate challenge. He refused to back down from this ancient, suffocating nightmare. He widened his massive stance on the ruined celestial floor. The entity raised a single, rotting finger directly at the defiant mortal. The entire universe blinked out of existence for one terrifying second. Will Goku's newly evolved creation power be enough to survive the original cosmic parasite, or has the multiverse finally met its absolute, horrifying end? Let me know your deepest theories in the comments below.